I come from a very religious family. My mother, especially, is I think our spiritual anchor. So whatever communication I had to do with God, it was mostly through my mother.
Okay, mama ये
Yeah,
कराओ ना
Mama, ye
काम।
bol do, please ask him to do that, ask her to do that. I'm honest, I never really read history a lot.
Okay.
Because I used to find it very difficult. It's very bulky and I could never retain much of it. And my questions were really wrong whenever I used to attempt. In fact, I was fighting with my parents that why did you have to go to West Bengal?
I have to prepare now.
Yeah, you had to, I just have to prepare West Bengal just because I was born in it and I lived there for 12 days.
Hello everyone, my name is Nikita and welcome to AKS IES. Today we have our second episode of the very new series of our podcast. Today's guest is also having very inspiring stories. She gave two attempts, one in 2023 where she couldn't even qualify prelims, and in 2024 she secured All India rank 55. Yes, we have with us Ritika. Hi Ritika, welcome to AKS IES and very congratulations for securing All India rank 55 this year.
Thank you so much.
So first of all, कैसा लग रहा है आपको?
To be very honest, this is an indescribable feeling. I don't think any words can really capture the excitement, the relief more than anything else that I am experiencing these past 10 days. And I still think that what this exam does is that it really changes your life. The moment that result PDF drops in, and it has been completely worth it.
Like as you mentioned, it changes your life. So how it changes life, like as a person, or how everybody looks at you?
So definitely, I think the first thing that it changes is internally because for me in the last 3 years, there's always this one aim or this one goal that you keep in mind whenever you wake up, you go to sleep. And in fact, on the day of the result itself, the first half of my day was extremely anxious. I was so nervous. I almost threw up. It was that exhilarating, just waiting and the anticipation for the results. But the moment the results came in and I saw my name in the rank list, it changed because my phone wouldn't stop ringing. There were relatives coming over, there were guests coming over. There was so much excitement. People around me were so happy. My parents were beyond the moon. So it definitely changes your internal as well as external uh, factors. And whatever you have thought for yourself for the past 2.5, 3 years for me, you see that come to life. And I think that is just beyond words.
So which rank you were expecting this year, and how your parents? You said like they were very excited and they were very happy. But what exactly they were doing and how they reacted when they hear or saw your rank?
So I never really expected any rank, to be honest. I was almost completely convinced that I will not find my name in the PDF. I was
Okay.
so underconfident. And in fact, my interview happened on the 14th of January. And then when my parents and my friends asked me, how was your interview? I thought that it went well. It was a pleasant experience. I enjoyed my interview. But as and when the results were about to come, I was going back in retrospect and thinking that, okay, maybe my interview hadn't gone that well.
Yeah, I could have said
I could have
that.
said
Yeah.
that. I don't know how my essay went. I don't know how my GS papers went. So I was just completely underconfident and I was absolutely sure that my name is not going to be in the PDF. But my parents, as you said, they were my anchor, especially for those last 4 5 days in the result anticipation. My mother, especially, she really believes in her prayers, and that's what she was doing for the entire 4 5 days. And even on the day that is 22nd April, just before like 3 4 hours before the result, I was absolutely certain that it is going to come today. And she was just sitting with me, and we were listening to Hanuman Chalisa. We were just quiet, and we were like reminiscing, praying, everything that we could have possibly done. But having said that, although I was extremely anxious and anticipative of the results, but just when I saw that the PDF had come, I don't know, there was a certain calmness within me, and I just very calmly looked for my name in the PDF. And I think that was almost miraculous because I was extremely nervous before that, which is like maybe 10 minutes before the results were about to come. And when they came, also, there was a sense of calmness in me which I really can't explain. So I think that is how it went.
It's, I think, the spirituality.
Yeah, maybe some
you think that-
energy, maybe some
Yeah.
energy was with me and it worked because I did not expect myself to be that calm. In fact, I had decided that I will not check my results myself. I did not think that I had the kind of energy to even look for my name in the PDF. So I'd asked my friends that, okay, you are the responsibility. You have to tell me my name if it's there or not, or what rank or anything. So I was almost certain that I'll not even check it myself. But when it came, I just very, very calmly searched my name and I did not have to go that far. So
So did you also, in your spiritual journey when you're preparing for this exam, and how does it help you?
See, I come from a very religious family. My mother, especially, is, I think, our spiritual anchor. So, whatever communication I had to do with God, it was mostly through my mother.
Okay, mama ये
Yeah,
बताओ ना
Mama, ye
काम।
bol do, aap please ask him to do that, ask her to do that. Mera prelims clear ho jaye is baar, this and that. So I think whatever communication I was having with God was mostly through my mother. And I think God listens to
सिफारिश
her.
सिफारिश चल रही है।
Yeah, yeah. My mother has a very special connection. So whatever I have to get through, I tell my mother ki please ye put it in his ear. Yeah.
And that's sweet. Okay, so tell me about your journey. Like how many years it took, and how many attempts you gave.
Right. So I started my journey right after my graduation. So I completed my exams of graduation in May 2022 and I started my coaching from June 2022. So this year it would have been my third year of preparation. Like I was again preparing for this year's prelims as well. So I entered my third year of preparation. So, and this was my second attempt. In my first attempt, which I gave in 2023, prelims I could not clear, unfortunately. And then 2024, I cleared prelims, mains, and interview successively.
That's amazing, yeah. I mean, like in the first time you couldn't qualify prelims,
Yeah.
and then securing all India rank 55.
Yeah.
This itself is an inspirational story.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So how you worked on yourself? So this would be like my first question now. So how you worked on yourself, just changing all of your strategy,
Right.
and you gave exam, and just within a year, like you that time you gave exam in 2023.
Yeah,
and
it was
this
just like certain months that I had been
yeah.
preparing.
So
Yeah.
how like what was your strategy? How you worked on it, and how you analyze, what you were doing wrong? So tell me all. It's a full bucket of questions.
Right. So, in my 2022, I was basically taking almost 2 to 3 classes in a day. I was taking coaching for optional, for GS, for CSAT as well. So, by the end of the day, when I was almost having 3 classes in a day, I did not have really much time for self-studying in my first attempt, like basically the first ones that I was preparing in. And when I gave my prelims in 2023, my statics were not strong.
Okay.
My static knowledge was very, very undercooked. I had not done enough revisions. I was not confident with the MCQ type paper because I come from a humanities background, and this was the first time in my life that I was facing an objective question paper. And I think there's a certain aptitude that you need to build before attempting such questions. So I think my aptitude firstly, and secondly my knowledge base was also not very well developed. So those were the 2 things that I focused on in my second attempt. So for example, when the prelims results came, I was almost certain that I was not clearing this year. And then I was obviously devastated for 2 to 3 days. But then I picked up the question paper for 2023, which was supposedly a very difficult year, like one of the difficult exam papers. And I picked up the paper and I just saw the questions, which were very simple to be honest. And I could not do that correctly. Like I was maybe panicked in the exam because of the nature change of the examination, or maybe that my revisions were not well done. So there was always a confusion in my mind. So I realized those 2, 3 things, and then I worked on them. And another thing which I think I did worked for me in 2024 was that even though I did not qualify 2023 prelims, I still prepared for mains the same way any prelims qualified candidate would have. Basically, in those 3 months that we get between prelims and mains, I prepared in a war mode. I was as if that, okay, 15th September, the mains examinations are starting and I will attempt all the papers on that particular date. So I need to have my preparation to that level of advance mastery.
Mm.
So that is what I did. And then when I cleared prelims 2024, so I was actually prepared for mains beforehand, because I think mains is a slow burn process. It's a skill that you need to develop, which does not come overnight.
Mm.
So because I had worked on those skills like my formative answer writing, how to do basic value addition, how to complete the paper in those 3 hours, and to understand the nuances of the different papers in the mains examination. For example, essay is demands something completely else.
Mm.
It tests your creative side, your personality. It is a very layered paper if you see. Similarly, optional has certain other demands. So to get familiar with those demands and to prepare my notes in a way that would help me in quick revisions. So that is what I did in my 2023 prelims and mains preparation phase. And then when I did clear prelims in 24, I think all of that came in very handy and I was able to give my best shot in leads. And I think that is why it worked for me in 2024.
So, for you, which stage you find is difficult, like prelims, mains, or
So I think this exam is such that whenever you clear a stage, you always think that the last stage was easier. Whenever you are in a particular stage, okay, this is
Now, are
very
you
tough.
finding the exam easy?
No, now I can say that, oh, it's fine, it was fun. But when I was in it, I was completely freaked most of the times. So, but see, if I have to pick one stage, I would still say prelims was the most challenging for me.
Okay.
Because again, as I said, that I come from a humanities background. So, attempting and first of all, cultivating that aptitude
Mm.
for a prelims type exam was difficult for me. Secondly, CSAT was always a challenge for me because I come from a non-maths background as well. So there was a certain fear I had of quant as well, completing the paper in 2 hours, how to clear the cutoffs. So I think I would still say that prelims for me was the most difficult part. Mains is difficult again, but I find mains interesting and more towards my forte because maybe of my answer writing, my speed, my general aptitude to sort of cultivate content right then and there. So I would still say that for me, prelims was the hardest part.
So, as you say, ki prelims, you find prelims toughest
Yeah.
among 3 stages. So, how did you work on that? And the CSAT part, of course,
Yeah.
like you find CSAT very difficult.
Right.
So, how you worked on CSAT? How you prepared for CSAT specifically?
Okay. So for prelims overall, I think in GS paper 1, what I worked on again, multiple revisions of my static. I wanted to make my static so strong that whenever a question from static comes, if I am not able to do it, I will make sure that other people are also not able to do it. I wanted to get to that level. So for that, I made my own short notes. I had obviously my foundation basic notes, and then from those, I sort of started picking up facts which I was forgetting very frequently. So I made my own short notes out of that, and again the value addition that I did, whatever test that I gave, mock test. So I never let a mock test only be limited to attempting that test. My real work started after attempting the test. So basically what I did was that I attempted more than 50 mock tests over a period of 10-15 months and more towards the prelims phase. And whenever I used to attempt a test, I used to analyze it by seeing how many 50 questions am I getting wrong.
Okay.
I wanted to narrow that gap. So, for example, if I am scoring maybe 100 in a prelims mock test, I did not focus on that 100. I used to calculate those questions which I could have gotten correct with my maybe intuition, my knowledge base, maybe thinking about the question more closely or more analytically. And then I used to see how many of those questions that I'm getting wrong, and I used to calculate that score. So, for example, if that score is 30 for me today, my focus was on narrowing that to maybe 15 to 10. And उससे ज़्यादा कम नहीं हो पाता था, but I think my focus was always on narrowing that gap more than the absolute score that I was getting. And the second thing I did was again I developed that aptitude as I was talking about, and I did that through analyzing the previous year question papers. So if you see, the commission always frames the language of the question in such a way that somewhere it really pushes you towards the right answer. I'll give an example here. For example, in 2022 or 21, there was a question about which of the following is an artificial lake.
Okay.
And the 4 options that were given, along with the name of the lake, in the bracket, they're given the state.
Okay.
So, out of the 4 options, in the 3 options, all the states were of northern India, particularly Himalayas. And only one was of a southern state, I think Tamil Nadu, the lake, I don't remember. So I thought in that way, I learned actually that why would an artificial lake be created in the Himalayas when it already has so many natural lakes? Because it provides the natural physical geography for it. In fact, it is difficult in the peninsular state to create a natural lake because of the water erraticity, but a artificial lake can be constructed with good dam building and navigational skills, which they
Yeah.
possess. So somewhere, why did the commission have to give the name of the state? Because they wanted you to push towards the correct answer.
Mm.
So if you look at those prelims PYQs, you'll find multiple such options wherein the commission has given you clues.
Yeah, but sometimes it also comes in our mind, like whenever the aspirant give, like attempt any question. So if they push towards a particular answer, sometime when itna easy nahi ho sakta hai.
True.
That also comes sometime, na?
Definitely, that is also there. Sometimes you think that, oh, this is maybe too simple to think
Ah.
that ways. But again, I'm telling you, if you go through the previous year papers and this is something that you'll not understand overnight. This is something that you'll have to do a lot of practice of. You have to see how to apply that. Firstly, you need to learn that skill. Okay, you need to learn the identification of such clues. Secondly, I think the important part is to apply them. And for that, I think the best sources are the UPSC papers, for example, CDS papers or PCS prelims papers, because then you can use these things that you have learned in a paper that is drafted by the UPSC. So all of this will help you definitely, not completely maybe, but in certain questions it will help you, and I think that will definitely push you over the cutoff. And of course, the primary thing remains your knowledge base, your static revisions, and general practicing of PYQs and other factors. And this is also a part of it, I would say. And coming to the CSAT question that you asked, so I am from a non-maths background, but my reading comprehensions were good. My English is, I think, generally my forte, so I focused on that. In the first 50 minutes of the paper, I used to complete all the 27, 28, whatever reading comprehensions came. And my accuracy was also pretty decent in that. I used to get around 25 of those correct. So that will reach you around 50 to 51 marks, 52 marks. Then I focused on logical reasoning questions, and in those also I targeted the simplest questions possible, like seating arrangements, clocks, calendars, dice questions, because these are topical questions which will be repeated every year, and there's little variation in that. And with a decent amount of practice, you can almost get 100% accuracy in that with little amount of time that you'll have to spend on the question. And post that, I used to pick the easiest maths questions possible. I have no ego whatsoever with respect to quant. In fact, a lot of times I also used to solve questions through options, because sometimes they give you answers faster rather than following the whole process of solving a question. So I used to be very flexible with my approach like that. And of course, having said that, I did practice my quant really well. Almost every day, 2 hours of my day or my schedule was given to CSAT for a good period of 11 months. And because I feel like a lot of non-math students have a fear psychosis towards quant. So what I would suggest is that firstly you need to get over that fear, and you'll do that by just diving headfirst into it. For example, if I know that okay, 4 to 6 I have to study CSAT or I have to study maths, if I think too much about it, no, oh, I have to study CSAT, it's so difficult, this, that, my brain will create excuses for me to not do that, and that will create a vicious cycle where I'll not practice it, so I'll not overcome my fear. So I just never used to think about it. I just sat on my table and opened my books and started doing that. Because the moment you think about it, now even for 5 minutes, then your brain will create excuses because it's uncomfortable for you. So it tries to avoid doing that. So I would say that just do not think about it. Fix a time and just get to it as soon as you can, because then you'll do it. And definitely having friends who are from maths background and who have a certain way of teaching will really help me. At least help me, because I had certain peer groups wherein they were from good mathematics background, and I was just not hesitant to even ask them the simplest and the stupidest of my doubts. So I think that is a comfort zone that you can have with friends, maybe not teachers. So that worked for me. I don't think that's a universal thing, but I think those two things helped me clear CSAT.
Why not teachers?
See, again, there are good teachers. Definitely, there are good materials also available, good coachings available, but always a teacher is maybe catering to 10-15 students at least. So sometimes it's also the teacher is also not accessible every time. Like a friend, you can just call up whenever you have a doubt and say that मुझसे मुझे नहीं हो रहा, मुझे बताओ ये कैसे करना है. But a teacher, you have to have a certain time dedicated to it, and maybe you cannot ask them the same thing 10 times if you're not understanding it, because they have also time limitations and everything. So I think friends can help you with that if they have a good mathematics background.
Nice. Actually, this is a really very deep strategy. Like no topper would tell me in this detail. Truly.
Because I've been there, I know
Yeah.
how much I feared maths, and I'll just tell honestly what things helped me clear it, because I was never after that I have to top CSAT. I just wanted to get to a point where it isn't a problem for me either, because it's very bad if you don't clear prelims because of CSAT. That
of
I think is the most regrettable of things. So I just wanted to get to that level.
Okay, so let's come to mains.
Yeah.
So what was your strategy in mains?
So I think, as I said, that first of all, the most important thing is that you just need to prepare for mains once seriously, and the moment you clear prelims, you're sort of making sure that you find your name in the final rank list. So that is the first thing that I did, and again, mains is a very nuanced examination. It's not just a test of your knowledge; it's a test of a lot of things. Your perseverance. You're writing 9 papers in a span of 9 days, 2 papers in a day. It is really a task for your physical body as well. Secondly, it's also about how to create content then and there when you have a certain time limit to respond to a particular question. For example, 10 minutes, I used to give 7 minutes for a 10 marker and 11 minutes for a 15 marker. And most of the times, the kind of questions that come are not directly in your notes. You have to cultivate and you have to bring together, you have to assimilate a lot of your knowledge right then and there to create a decent enough answer in that time limit. So that is something that is not going to happen naturally. It is something that is required to, that will require a lot of practice. So I did all of that practice and formulative answer writings, basic value addition during my first year of preparation when I did not clear prelims. And finally, when I did clear prelims in 24, I used those 3 months to sort of create the towers of advanced answer writing more and more mock tests, limiting myself to 3 hours, like attempting all the 20 questions in 3 hours. And again, one thing which I think really worked for me was that in the market you'll find a lot of data compilations for all the GS subjects, 5 GS essay till GS4, and you'll find good data in it, good examples in it. Basically, it's a content enrichment, and you'll find it freely available on YouTube, anywhere that you look for. And what I used to do is that I did not actively memorize it, because it's very difficult to memorize 50 pages of pure data, of pure examples without any context. So every day when I used to wake up, in the morning especially, the first thing that I did was 30-40 minutes of my day, I just used to scroll through those PDFs. Just run that data through my eyes. And when you do that for a period of 90 days, it sort of becomes internalized within you. And then it's very easy to emulate that or replicate that in the examination. So by the end of it, basically whatever point I wrote, I always had some data or some example or some schematic to back that with. And I think that really works. That's amazing. Yeah, that's I think that is what worked for me as well. It gives you that score, and it's not difficult because you're doing that over 90 days. So I was not actively memorizing data. I was just running it through my eyes for a period of 90 days every day for 40 minutes, and it just got internalized within me. And the similar thing I did for my optional as well, that was geography. That the test series that I took, and along with the PYQs. So in optional, the better thing is that always the questions are repeated because the themes are limited, and it's almost certain that from this theme a certain question will come. Maybe the language of the question will vary, but the content will remain the same. So what I used to do is that I went back almost 7 years of previous year papers, and I picked up the questions and I put that on Google, and you'll get very good model solutions for it. Along with good value addition, data, maps, diagrams, schematics, using paper 1 knowledge with paper 2, current affairs examples for paper 2, and I made my notes out of that for those topics. And I used to revise that again very quickly. And then again, I used to emulate that in the exam. And another thing which I did was that whenever I used to attempt a mock test of geography optional, the test solutions that you get, the model solutions, they are very well content added. They are very enriched sources. You have case studies in it, you have examples in it, maps, all of that. So I read those at least 4 to 5 times. So it not only creates a good knowledge pool for you, but you also get a visualization of how an answer is supposed to be written, because these are the model answers. Exactly. And I did that the same, like the morning of my examination of geography optional, I woke up at 5 a.m. and I just ran through those pages again, and that was sort of fitted in my mind, and I emulated that in the examination itself.
So what was your strategy in writing? Like you said, you have gathered
Yeah.
all the knowledge and everything. Now, how to write and where to have a diagram? But
Right.
even if it is in module, as you
Yeah,
as you
yeah.
just mentioned, but still, when we sit in the exam, we get confused
Correct,
in
correct.
jot down all the points and accurately and everything with diagrams. So, what was your strategy in that?
I think practice.
Okay.
Practice is the most important part because that is only how you learn to write an answer. You might have the best resources in the world, the best knowledge pools, but if you're not writing and you don't know how to assimilate all of that in a two-page answer, I don't think that's going to help you improve your score. So, a year consists of 54 weeks. Almost 50 weeks I was writing tests. Every Sunday I used to write mains tests. Every Sunday I used to write tests. I used to get them evaluated. I sat down with the people who knew better than me, discussed with them, see where I could improve. And for example, in every question, if I'm getting maybe say 3.5 in a 10 marker, I used to focus on how can I increase this score to 4, just that half mark. What more could have I done in that paper to get that half mark or that question to get that 1.05 marks more?
Do like a lot of aspirants ignore that half mark
Maybe
improvement?
because see, over time, what happens is that you have 5 papers of GS and every paper has 20 questions apart from essay. So the 0.5 marks creates a difference of more than 50 marks in your final score, which can really make the decision of whether you are in the list or with what rank as well. So if you just focus on not, because 3.5 marks most people will write and they'll get 3.5 marks with a decent amount of practice. But if you just focus on how you can make that improvement for 0.5 marks, you're really setting yourself apart from the crowd. And that will happen when you write consistently because it's sort of a self-corrective mechanism that you'll understand more and more with the number of tests that you write. It's not something that I can encapsulate here in words. It's when a candidate will sit down and start writing, they'll learn from them their mistakes. And another thing which I used was topper copies.
Okay.
They really help you see the difference between why a person is getting 5 marks out of 10 and why am I getting 3.5 marks out of 10. So that you can really learn from topper copies. And again, every paper, as I said, has a different nuance that requires understanding. For example, in GS4, it's less about the content, it's more about time management because it's a very lengthy paper. There are 5 case studies to write, and case studies in itself are more than 1,000-1,200 words. So to read that, to assimilate that, to understand that, and then to write it requires a lot of practice with time management as well. So for GS4, I focused more on presenting my data nicely, presenting what I'm writing nicely, increasing the visibility of my answer, because I got to know somewhere that an examiner only spends around 30 seconds per answer. Okay. So even if I have the best of content, the best of examples, but if we can't really find that quickly in my copy, I don't think that's going to help my score. So I learned that for GS4, I learned how to improve the visibility. I started underlining more, started using more boxes, more schematics, more flowcharts maybe, in case studies as well, trying different things. So I think all of that worked finally, and yeah.
You also said time management. So how
Yes.
did you manage that? Like you were like you were having that time, that machine.
Yeah. So
Stopwatch.
right, timer, yeah.
Timer.
So when I started my answer writing, like that, when I was just building my basics of it, my formulative answer writing, I did not really focus on the time because again, answer writing is a very layered process. First of all, you need to understand what the question demands. First of all, you need to figure out the content for it because you'll not easily find content for answers. You need to learn how to write all of that down in a 2-page answer or a 3-page answer, and then you get to time management as well. So all of that will take, it's layered. So initially I did not really worry about the time boundaries and the time management overall, but finally when I got to a level when my basics were settled, then I started timing myself. So I said, as I said before, that I did not give more than 7 minutes to a 10 marker and 11 minutes to a 15 marker. And if you follow that with every question, so by the time your paper will complete, you'll be left with 5 minutes or 7 minutes before the time is up. And I did use a stopwatch, as you said, and fortunately in my main center also there was a stopwatch.
Okay.
So that really helped me because I had practiced with that. And I still remember 12th August 2023. That was the first day I actually wrote GS1 and GS2 together in a day, 3 hours more. So
Okay.
that was really a big day for me because I never thought that I'll reach the level where I'll be able to complete my mains paper in 3 hours. So I think that was still a very good milestone for me, and I remember that day today as well.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So let's come to interview. So how was your interview? Who was your panel? And it was like for your first interview. So
Yes.
how it went?
So, 20th December 2024, the dates for the interview came, and my interview was on the 14th of January.
Okay.
Just 7 days
Very
after
close,
the
yeah.
interviews were starting, and I was really freaked. So, I cried for 2 hours first of all.
Okay.
Whenever a crisis comes, I need to first have a cry session, and then I went into preparation.
Okay.
So, what I did was that I picked up 3 newspapers in a day. I started reading 3 newspapers in a day. I used to read Hindu, Indian Express, and Mint, a financial newspaper, and I started giving mocks.
Okay.
First of all, before even mocks started, I took up my DAF and I just prepared notes from my DAF. I prepared notes for myself in the form of question and answers.
Okay.
Just my basic DAF, no current affairs in it, nothing. Just from where I was born to my name to the date of birth to where I had studied from, my optional subjects, so what my hobbies.
Okay.
There was very intense grilling, almost rapid fire of questions, counter questioning, counter interaction with the panel, questions that I didn't know. So my knowledge base also improved. I understood what kind of questions could come. So all of that really helped me prepare for the worst basically. And fortunately, my main interview was much more pleasant than that. It was so conversational. There was a sense of lightness in the room. The chairman was smiling most of the times, although that is no indication of how your interview is really going. But the chairman was very pleasant, conversational. Even the other members were very light. So I think because I had gone through such intense interviews, my real interview felt very natural to me.
So, according to you, how much mock one should give?
So I think that's a very subjective
Okay.
to the person. For some, giving 2 or 3 mocks also works. I know people who had given no mocks and they still scored really well in the main interview. I think it was my first interview and I wanted to be extra careful and I wanted to control things. So what I could control was giving more and more mocks. And that strategy personally worked best for me because as I said, that I think I prepared for the worst, and fortunately my main interview I was well covered, and I think that is why I felt that lightness throughout the interview.
So how it went? Like what questions they asked?
So my board was of Lieutenant General Raj Shukla sirs, and the conversation that I had with the chairman was in a current affairs issue. At the time of my interview, the 90-hour, 70-hour work week debate was going on. So the chairman asked me about the issue and what my thoughts were about it. Then he went into a discussion on how corporate employees and government employees, there's a very significant pay disparity. Even though the government employees are expected to do much more, they have much difficult jobs. So he asked me whether they should also be paid at par with the corporate employees. So that was my discussion with the chairman, sir, and he seemed pretty satisfied with our discussion. Then member one asked me, because I was born in West Bengal, so he asked me that West Bengal has a culture of female politicians. Why don't you want to go into politics?
Okay.
So he asked me about that. Then I also had a University of Bristol scholarship mentioned in my DAF. So he asked me about the higher education scenario and why many students in India are opting to go abroad for their higher education. So that was again, something which I expected because I had prepared my DAF well. And then my optional was geography. So another member asked me about carbon sinks. And he also asked me about constitutional positions in India. Then the fourth member carried on my discussion with the chairman. He asked me in depth about labor laws of India, which I was not very well aware of. So I said right at the beginning that, sir, this is something that I'm not aware of. And I think he wanted to tell me himself about it. So that is why he picked up the discussion. And finally, the fifth member asked me about my hobbies.
Okay.
And because I'm from Miranda House, so she asked me that you have been from an all-girls institution. Do you think that we should have more number of all-girls institution or co-ed institutions are the way to go? To which I replied that even though I am from Miranda House, which is a very prestigious college, and it did instill that feminist spark in me, but I still believe that co-ed institutions are the way to go because it provides a more holistic interaction and does not isolate one from the real world issues as well. So that is what was my overall interview.
That's amazing. So tell me about, like, tell me about all your things, like what
Stages.
you were, your
Yeah.
stages, and what you have done, what carefully you have done, and everything. And what I have learned from your conversation till now is that you're very particular about, practicing and
Yes.
everything. And
Yes.
yeah, so you have like that practicing part was like very important in your whole journey,
Yeah.
rather just having all the information, but practice on every stage, not just
Yeah,
on.
because I genuinely believe
Yeah.
that this exam is obviously it's a difficult exam, but also it has been complicated beyond its worth or beyond its measure because of the narratives around it. But I genuinely believe that this exam can be cleared by anyone just with simple, plain old study. Just need to keep your head down and hands down and practice what you have learned, study at your study table silently just for 2.5 years, and I think you're good to go. There's nothing much more else that is needed to clear this exam.
Yeah, exactly. So, what are the things one should not do in this preparation?
Okay. So, this is not an academic degree. It's not a doctoral degree. You're not here to become an academician. You need to understand what will really help me get through this examination cycle. You don't have to sit here and complete a course for 5 years. Just do what is required, understand the simplicity of the sources, and if you stick with them, you'll get through. So, I'll give two general advices. First is that I think a lot of people start running behind the best source. We live in a digital era. There is so much information available online in the markets. It's flooded with over information, really. And what happens is that we pick up every new magazine that comes in, we pick up every new source that comes in, every new course that is coming up every other day. So it's not about running behind the best sources. It's just picking up the sources that work for you and making the best use out of them. And that is something that you'll do with regular practice and regular revisions of those sources. Second advice is that this exam is a long process. It's a slow burn. It's not like a 100-meter sprint. It's a marathon. And to succeed finally in this marathon, you have to pick up something which is natural, practical, and sustainable to you. It only has to make sense for you. If you look at toppers from the last 5-7 years, all of them have very different strategies. Although the core remains the same for everyone, but there is no really one way to clear this exam. So I would really suggest that stop running behind topper strategies or people who have cleared this exam, because they also, while they were preparing for this exam, they didn't know that they were going to clear this exam. So they stuck with what was natural to them, and they kept doing that because it was sustainable for them. And that is why they ended up clearing this examination. There's no one standard way to clear UPSC. So just find what works the best for you and make the best use out of it at the end of the day. And what not to do is, again, you do not have to pick up sources which are not really needed to clear this examination. For example, people start reading 500,000 page yearbooks. I'm not saying that those are bad sources. It's just that the rate of return is really less from those sources. I never really read Pratyogita or Down to Earth magazines because the questions never really come from a direct source. It's always more of contemporary awareness which you can gain from newspapers. You can gain from maybe 1 or 2 monthly compilations and yearly compilations. You do not have to pick up really bulky sources because there's no guarantee that the question is going to come from those sources. So just be very smart with what you're picking up, what you're reading, and I would really advise that instead of running after 10 different magazines, just pick up one magazine and try to revise that at least 4 to 5 times, because if a current affairs question is solvable, you will know how to solve it if you have read that magazine 4 to 5 times. But if you start running after those questions which are always just never going to happen, you're just wasting your time and you're leaving out on the questions which were really simple and you could have banged upon them. So be very smart with that and never avoid PYQs. PYQs, I think, are the key to clear this exam because they really give a reflection into the examiner's mindset, which is very important to understand, especially to clear prelims. So that is something my general advice is to everyone.
Yeah, you mean like to making your own strategy, analyzing your strength and your weaknesses, and then making a strategy.
Because if I'm honest, I never really read history a lot
Okay.
Because I used to find it very difficult. It's very bulky and I could never retain much of it, and my questions were really wrong whenever I used to attempt. So I understand that okay, history is not my strength. I'll cover a basic part of it, but I'm not going to run after very bulky books in order to get maybe one or two, because the questions also, if you see, are coming from non-traditional sources. So if you start running behind every book because just one question was asked from that book maybe 1 year, 2 years back, like it's not wise to go through that 500-page book just to get that one question correct. So I understood that, and I never really focused too much on history after that. Whenever the question came, if I could solve it, I solve. But if I didn't, I left that question. You don't have to attempt all the 100 questions. At least I didn't. So just be very smart with what works for you, and I am like positive that if you identify your strengths and stick with it, you're not going to be left behind just because you did not cover one or two subjects very nicely. Like your exam will not stop because of that.
True. Okay, so Ritika, tell me about your family. Like how many people are there, what they do, and from where you belong, and
Right.
everything.
So we are a 6-member family, and originally, actually, it's a difficult question that where I come from. So I have
Okay.
roots in 3 places. My heritage roots are in Rajasthan because I'm a Marwadi. But
Okay.
my grandfather, from his teenage years, lived in West Bengal in Kolkata. He set up his business there, and then my mother as well as my father were born and brought up in West Bengal. Then my father shifted to Delhi 30 years back to start his own business, and that's why I was, even though born in West Bengal, I've been brought up in Delhi for my whole life basically. And then I completed my schooling in Delhi. I went to Miranda House for my graduation in BA Honours Geography. I completed my graduation and I came into UPSC for full-time preparation. And fortunately, I cleared this exam. And I have an elder sister and a younger brother. My elder sister lives in Ireland. She's working in the science sector. And my younger brother is completing his graduation at the moment.
Okay. So you have stayed in you belong to like multiple
Yeah, I
states.
belong to multiple places, but I
That's why
consider
that's why
myself-
your preparation interview preparation you took
Yeah.
like it take you took you wrote 70 pages
Yeah,
from your
because
dad
I had to cover
because
3 places.
you had so
Just-
many.
Yeah, just so many places I had to cover. In fact, I was fighting with my parents that why did you have to go to West Bengal?
Now I have to prepare now.
Yeah, you had to. I just have to prepare West Bengal just because I was born in it and I lived there for 12 days of my
Yeah.
life. I had to prepare a whole new state.
Yeah.
And so I just like picked up this fight with him as well. But I overall consider myself a Delhiite because this is where I've been
Yeah.
living for
You have been raised.
my
yeah.
life. Yeah.
Okay, so like how your family is now, and like also it didn't take you that much years, like it's just 2 years, and you
Yeah.
made it in this exam, but still, how it changed you, like from the day you have prepared, like from 2023 to
22, yeah.
sorry 2022
Yeah.
to now 25, how you see yourself, like it's like must have changed you internally, mentally.
Definitely.
It takes so much, like the negative thing also improves and it gives you so much of positivity, your mind changes, so tell me about that.
See, all my life I was always a bright student academically. I was always performing good in my school and college as well. But I think one thing positively that UPSC did for me is that in school or college, you just have to give one final examination in a year. So I started associating my self-worth and my self-image with the marks that I was getting in those final examinations. And because I was scoring good, my confidence was good. But when you come into this UPSC field, you're giving mock tests almost every day, every week, in fact, and all the mock tests cannot go well. In fact, it takes a time to adjust that you don't really get that much marks in UPSC. Like if you're getting maybe 3.5 out of 10, that's an average mark that you get. So it took a while for me to adjust to that. But I think what changed was that I really became much more resilient. I cultivated a sort of indifference from marks because I realized that I am not what marks I'm getting. I'm much more beyond that. And definitely this examination over a period of time makes you so so resilient. I think that's again a word that I'm repeating, but
Mm.
it really does make you a lot resilient because there are so many setbacks that you face.
Mm.
There are emotional highs and lows that you go through during this preparation, but irrespective of that, you still have to get back to your study table after a period of time. And you can only do that when you cultivate a sort of emotional indifference, which I didn't think I had before. So this exam taught me that. And secondly, when I did not clear prelims in 2023, I was definitely devastated for 2 or 3 days. But then there's certain motivation that comes upon you when you see, okay, where did I go wrong, and what better could I have done. So all of this is also, I think, a byproduct of how resilient this exam makes you, and definitely it's a test of your mental strength, your physical stamina as well.
Totally.
Because you need to really isolate yourself from all sort of social situations as well. Your friend circle gets narrower and more compact, which I think is a good thing because I'm an introvert. So all of that definitely does change you for the better, and there's no comparison to the amount of knowledge that you gain during this preparation. I think you really become a much more aware, a much balanced, and a much more knowledgeable person in general when you step out of this preparation, irrespective of whether you've cleared this examination or not. If you have studied for this exam honestly for maybe 1.5 years, I think you're still distinguished from a better part of India's population. So, and that is something that is a skill set of yours, and you can really use that in any other field that you go into. So, I think this exam definitely does change you, as you said, internally as well as externally.
Yeah, true. So what else do you like doing, like apart from academic part? Do you like you have other interests?
So, as I said that since my school and college days, I was a bright student academically because that is what I knew.
Okay.
Honestly, I just knew how to study. I never really had any extracurricular, like, I did not play that many sports. In fact, I like dancing here and there, but that was also never like, never did that at school competitions or anything. But one thing which I think I devised for myself during this preparation was I like doing this thing called paint by numbers.
Okay.
So what is it is that you can order this pre-assembled set from Amazon or Flipkart, wherein there's a canvas. It's a printed canvas. So whatever scenery or anything that you have chosen is divided into numbers,
Okay.
and they give you a paint set along with it, and those paints are divided into numbers too. So for example, in the canvas, wherever 1 is marked, so I'll pick the color that has been marked 1 and I'll paint that. So over time, a scenery comes to life, sort of. It's a difficult and it's a detailed process, but I like to do it because firstly, it reduces your online screen time. And secondly, I found it really therapeutic. I think it calmed down my anxiety, and whenever I didn't feel like studying, I used to do that. And another thing which I think I liked doing was that cooking meals for myself. Although I lived with my parents, but sometimes I like to cook for myself.
Like what do you
and
cook?
I love pasta.
Okay.
So I used to cook all the variations of pastas that I could, and I think I found my love for cooking during this preparation, not before that. I used to repulse cooking, but now I like it.
That's amazing. Okay, so if not civil services, then what?
Right. So I think it's very important to have plan Bs when you step into this preparation, because I think it really relaxes your mind. It makes you much more free from the fear of failure that one experiences in this examination cycle, because it's an unpredictable game. So I had decided two things for myself. First is I was looking for doing my master's from foreign universities, and I'd applied and I'd gotten in also, but fortunately I don't have to go now. And the second thing which I was planning on was doing LLB. So I'd also given the CUET examination, and if this wouldn't have worked out, I would have gone to do law.
Okay. You wouldn't have given another attempt.
I was really planning not to give another
Okay.
attempt, because I was always almost certain that I'll not give more than 3 years of my life to this examination, because I don't think personally it's wise to sit for 5 or 6 years, especially in your 20s, and then not to find yourself anywhere after that. So I always had that this thing in mind that I'll give maybe 3 years maximum to this examination, and then I'll move on if this doesn't pan out.
So last but not the least, advice to other aspirants, especially for those who are giving prelims this year and people who are planning to prepare for this exam.
Right. So in detail, so I have told you my strategies and everything, but if I have to give specific advice for especially for students who are writing their prelims this month, is that now do not pick up anything new. I think you have studied well enough. You've collected and identified your sources. Now you just have to stick with it, revise it as many times as you can. And second thing is the very practical advice is that now try to give mock tests in as close to a simulative environment as possible to the main examination, because I can tell from my personal experience that in 2023, when I was giving my CSAT paper, it was a difficult paper, and even the fan was not working in my center, and it was 45 degrees hot. So that all of that, those negative externalities really play with your mind, and you're not able to perform to your best. So whenever you're giving any mock test now, always give it in the format as prescribed by UPSC. Give it in those timings. Take that 3-hour break between GS1 and GS2, and prepare for all kind of things that can go wrong in your while giving the examination. And for those who are starting out their preparation, is first of all, be very sure of why you want to clear this examination, because that is going to come in handy every week when you get tired, when you have a setback or anything. Because for me, I knew that I can never be in a corporate job. I just never saw myself in a corporate environment, and I think that pushed me to study whenever I felt low or whenever I felt that oh man nahi kara padne ka. So I just saw myself in a Gurgaon office working 9 to 5, and I think that pushed me to study the next day. So be very clear with your why, and be very practical with your sources, your strategies, because as I said before, you're not here to become an academician. Try to clear this exam as soon as possible. Be very smart with the sources. There's a lot of noise around in this community, in this atmosphere. Be aware of that, and try to figure out what works best for you. Don't run after stupid advices. Don't run after sources. Just figure out what is natural, practical, and sustainable to you, and keep doing that, and you'll get through.
That's amazing. So actually, you have give us very detailed strategy, and I'm sure this will going to help a lot of aspirants. So thank you so much, Ritika, to be here, and wish you all the best for your future endeavor.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. It's really my honor, and it was great chatting with you.
Same here, same. I mean, even I got so much. I've learned so much that even I'm willing to attempt this exam.
That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Be with the best. To be the best.